Art is what artists do. An answer that avoids the question as much as it answers it.
Art is what you love.
It's brilliant. I mean, it's really great. It's very inspiring to look at.
It really takes a technique, it takes a vision, it takes inspiration.
These are beautiful pieces of art that I'd like to have in my home.
Art is what inspires filmmakers and the audiences.
This is a journey through long corridors, beautiful estates, and archives many floors beneath the earth. A journey to discover and rediscover treasures locked away. This is a journey to reveal Hollywood hidden from view.
One of the eternal questions in art is, what is art? And also whether commercial art is art or just the product of commerce. Movie art falls into that category. The designing of sets and props and environments and camera angles through storyboarding are often considered a lesser art because they're done in service of the commercial enterprise.
In art, we tend to glorify the artifact. We tend to glorify the object. It's like having monuments. As we go through museums, it's filled with monuments. But what about the artwork that created that film?
Whether you're an artist that's drawing, production art for card companies or soup boxes or cereal boxes or whatever, an artist is a paid work-for-hire or not work-for-hire employee. He comes in and does a job. Some artists do a better job than others. Some care more, some don't care. Some, the bottom line with Hollywood is you have to meet a deadline. Hollywood always is about money. It's a for-profit institution.
The studios, with a lot of the things that they create for films, if they can reuse them, they will. They'll rehab costumes for future productions. They'll use the same furniture over again and paint it. Sets are generally just completely broken down and either the wood's reused or it's thrown in the trash. And then you have the fine art output, the actual drawings that go into the development and the building of these various elements for film. And it has a very spotty history of survival.
God, I see so much stuff going in the trash. I just don't have room for all of it. But there's a lot of things I would love to have that they would rather throw in the trash than keep it. And a lot of it is art. They'll hand carve walls and animals and food dogs and all kinds of great pieces. The stage is costing us $10,000 a day. We have to empty out this stage. So it's just worth it to them to just throw in the trash, because they see it as saving $10,000 a day. I see it as them just destroying pieces. As we have walked around during the day, we've seen things like giant oil paintings of Art Deco figures. These are done by really good artists that just happen to be on the set.
I think being at 20th Century Props, it reinforces the idea of choice.
The choice in how an artist selects a color palette or style of furnishings, or even what is omitted, is what the creative process is. Ultimately, they're the ones that build and mold and construct meaning for the audience by making that choice.
Auction houses have been responsible for showing people what they've missed for a long time. The original art, a lot of concept art, poster art, is now being sold by Christie's and Sotheby's, Profiles in History, which is in Hollywood.
One of my favorite things are costume sketches. You know, years ago when I was collecting them in the 70s and 80s, costume sketches were $25, $50. You'd go to paper shows, the dealers would stuff them under the table in a box. Nobody wanted them. It was considered complete junk. I was the first person to actually take costume sketches and introduce them to collectors. Collectors from fine art world, from other areas of photography collecting, suddenly found this stuff.
Literally, the minute the auction is done, we have telephone calls and people sending us emails from around the world. Did I win? What did I win? How much do I have to pay? Can I get it now? It's kind of like Christmas. Everybody wants their piece right now. They want to hold it, they want to touch it, they want to look at it, and they've probably been waiting for months to bid on these things. And it is Hollywood history.
Once, twice, that's all. 191 for $40,000.
Now, yes, it is fine art. These are talented artists. If you took it out of the realm of Hollywood and were to take it to an art show and put it on the wall, it is fine art, but as soon as they hear, oh, he was a Hollywood personality, it's back to the realms of, oh, production art, which is kind of a wacky thing. The treasures that I've been able to take out of irresponsible, places and put into safeguards of collectors' hands, it's extraordinary what we're able to save. So in one way, we're not, the directors and producers aren't doing it, but the fans, again, are doing it. The fans are writing the checks.
Much of the collection at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Library has been rescued because either somebody took it home from the studio, someone found it in a dumpster, somebody's uncle dies and we get a phone call to come and look in a garage because a lot of things had been taken home over time and literally forgotten, and they're stored in poor conditions without temperature controls or anything like that. A lot of things get degraded that way.
There was a poster of King Kong holding Fay Wray standing on the Empire State Building. It sold for $280,000, and somebody gave it to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. To me, it's a wonderful piece of work, but it's a poster. It's the original artwork that would be the most valuable.
It's something that requires the skills of hundreds and hundreds of people, and the key people who are leading those teams, whether it be the production designers, the costume designers, the editors, the screenwriter or screenwriting team, the director, those people are all marshaling the forces of a tremendous number of incredibly talented people who are creating at a very high level the fantasy worlds, the reality, the narrative that we all enter when we go to the movie theater and enter into the reality of a motion picture.
I believe that a craftsman is an artist when that craftsman exercises his or her craft above and beyond the need to make as much money as possible from it.
What's that girl doing over there with a 1935 headdress? This isn't a fantasy, this is history.
Art is done because the artist needs to do it.
Are you ready, Tate?
Already and turning, Mr. DeMille.
All right, now, give me everything you've got, you people.
Cecil B. DeMille was really the first filmmaker in Hollywood who had an art director. One of the problems in early films was when they went outdoors, everything was real. But when they were shooting indoors, everything was done like stage sets, muslin flats, covered flats, painted scenery, sometimes even pictures on the wall would be painted on the flat rather than three-dimensional. Audiences quickly grew tired of the fakery. And about the time DeMille started making pictures, the audiences were really getting upset with this and wanted more realism in films. And DeMille and Jesse Lasky hired Wilfred Buckland away from Belasco, brought him to Hollywood, and really established the first movie art department. One of the things that DeMille used to enhance his films was to be inspired by artists from the past. For The King of Kings, he used Gustave Doré's etchings. He was influenced by these artistic movements in the real world and bringing those to film.
One of the first things I remember of my childhood was walking in to Grandfather's office at Paramount. It was loaded with art, whatever picture he was making. And this is not just storyboards as we think, small storyboards of an artist's conception of a scene. These were full-blown oils, watercolors, 4 feet by 5 feet, sometimes as large as that. He loved this art. He took it home, he stored it. When he died, we had over 40,000 pieces of artwork in our home.
What was exciting about arriving at the DeMille estate was that the house had been kept exactly the way Mr. and Mrs. DeMille had lived in it. Every chair, every ashtray, every artifact was exactly in the same position as DeMille had enjoyed it. He had a fabulous office with replicas and props from the various films. Mr. DeMille made 70 films.
And he wanted to preserve, not necessarily his work, but the collaborative work of the artists that helped him make film. And the most important of that collaboration, one of them, is the artists. So he saved all the art from all his movies.
A large, large collection went to Brigham Young University.
So I, as the young, nervous assistant, and my boss, who was curator of special collections, Dennis Rowley, made a trip to Los Angeles, and I finally got to go up that road that said DeMille Drive Private. We rented a large 17-foot truck and made the journey from Utah to the DeMille home in Los Angeles. And I don't think we were quite prepared for what we saw. File cabinet after file cabinet of papers that went into the early 20th century. This was a fantastic historical resource. Then as we went into the basement, we found bin after bin full of canvas board, poster board, on which we saw storyboards, scene renderings, costume sketches, just incredible pieces. One of the reasons that the Cecil B. DeMille collection was brought to Brigham Young University was first and foremost to preserve it, stabilize it, make it safe, catalog it, inventory it. But ultimately the purpose is to reinvest it in the culture, and that is so that it can be used. Over the 30 years that the collection has been here, the material, the art material, has been used in exhibitions on the world of Cecil B. DeMille, the films of Cecil B. DeMille, and on individual artists such as Dan Sayer Groesbeck.
The Groesbeck exhibit was wonderful because the museum came to me and asked me if I would be a part of it, which I was, of course, delighted. There are people who understand Groesbeck and who love him. He's a great artist.
Mrs. Presley made a commitment to the Santa Barbara Museum and featured an entire Groesbeck exhibit. Groesbeck has not really been acknowledged and represented in the right way. And so it was a very successful exhibit. In fact, we found when we went to Santa Barbara that the City Hall had a huge mural that had been designed by Groesbeck. So Santa Barbara loves Daniel Sayer Groesbeck.
DeMille called me down to the office one day, and he told me the Groesbeck story. He told me that he had, helped him in life and so on and so forth, and he had died. And he must have had, 60 paintings in the office. I mean, it was like a gallery. And he said, "Which one do you like?" When I got home that night, the picture was at my home framed, which of course, he was very generous in those ways and amazing in those ways.
I saw when I was a child which is about 50 years ago, Samson and Delilah, the Cecil B. DeMille Samson and Delilah. I am painting now a 14-foot long painting that is called Samson and Delilah. It represents one moment in Samson and Delilah in which Delilah finally gets Samson in bed, and these curtains, purple curtains, drop, and there is a tassel that flies around and the curtains fall. That came from an idea, and a conceptual idea created by the designer of the movie. So that produced an impact on me that is lasting 50 years later.
We also have had so many exhibitions that have to do with the history of motion pictures and how did Cecil B. DeMille put together his team of artists and craftspeople, and the incredible historical accuracy that he was so concerned with, to the point where there was, armor that we were able to show from the Ten Commandments and other historic pictures.
The artwork in the DeMille collection is revelatory in that, as an archivist, I don't look at that artwork as beautiful pieces of art only, although most of them are. I look at the artwork as I think he looked at it, as working documents, as images that would stimulate the mind and to be provocative to a highly tuned visual sense.
Art is what artists do. An answer that avoids the question as much as it answers it. Art is a context. Art is a framework for understanding what something is, why it's been created, and how it's affecting whomever it is beholding it. That's why I say anything that anyone wants to call art is art. That does not make it good art. That doesn't make it worthwhile. It simply makes it art.
There are artists today who work with public commissions, with galleries that might fund the production of work ahead of time. If you look at the Venice Biennale, which is a very large international exhibition, most of those projects are funded in part by, in the case of United States artists, by the State Department, by private donors. So there really are commissioned works in that sense. So the distinction you're making between, let's say, for example, high art and low art is not really based on that issue of where the funds come from.
The high art is talking to a tradition of exploration, of invention for its own sake, whereas commercial art has been made in a far less rarefied discourse. We could call it the discourse of entertainment. It's been produced primarily to make money. Of course, if we go back and look at many of the things that are considered high art, those were produced primarily to make money too, but they happened to be produced by people who were simply too gifted at what they did and or too committed to their own sense of how to do it, that is, to their artistic vision, to do it simply for the money.
The level of craft in fine art now, I think it's essentially gone. It's never rewarded. If you have a high level of craft to your work, well, it must be commercial or production work, right? But that's not fine art. It's almost like fine art has to have no craft in order to be taken seriously as a piece of artwork, out of context. So the people that have these amazing hand skills in the entertainment world are sort of discounted as, well, that can't be art. Illustrators or fine artists are the ones that retain that level of craft and try to bring the two together.
And the contemporary art practice in general, certainly for the last century, is really driven by this question of irony, of whether or not what you see is exactly what you get, of whether there's another reference, that image is drawing your attention to another context. The classic example is Duchamp's urinal. Duchamp's urinal is a urinal, right? But it's also a sculpture, some could argue formally, but it's really the idea of him selecting it, of his choice of that object.
There is a hierarchy in the fine art world, and there's a hierarchy as to the way that painting is judged. People doing figurative painting versus abstract painting are marginalized in the contemporary art world. And so if you take someone who's doing truly figurative work, which is architectural, schematic, and camera and lighting angle oriented, you are going to find that the critics will not respond to it as if it were a wholly created individual expression of somebody's artistic intent, which is a very rarefied and very elitist way of looking at why people create art in the first place.
I was there. I was a painter in the 60s. I know exactly what was prevalent. And it was all bullshit. Like it is always. It's invented by a group of people, usually people who have nothing to do, who are highly paid by the galleries to create some sort of tendency so they can sell their paintings. And these people go and drink large amounts of wine and go to all these exhibits and then write this nonsense.
People sort of throw up the argument of if you were paid for something, if you were paid for a comic book page, then that makes it commercial and somehow takes it out of the category of fine art. If that's true, then the Medici were the greatest advertising agency on earth. They got a lot for their dough. They got the Sistine Chapel painted.
And anybody who creates, in a way, something new, originality, new content, for me, that's a type of art. It is a team effort, so it can be a team effort between a couple of people, and then to bring that on the screen from that drawing, there are hundreds of people involved, which all are also claiming to be artists. The compositor says, because I'm compositing properly, it's art. The lighter of the CG model says, it's because my great lighting is great. The CG modeler says, because my models are better. The lighter on the stage, which does the primary shooting, says, that's my work. The DP says, I'm an artist. And later I found out that even the people working in Subway are artists. They're called sandwich artists. I worked with Eugenio Zanetti on What Dreams May Come, and I thought it was brilliant because he was somebody who was just bigger than life. And an art department which was just a phenomenal place. I mean, the paintings and the things were blown up to enormous, like entire walls of illustrations and paintings. And I thought it was a phenomenal place which you could do all that.
There's the synergy of, everybody's excited about the project. Whether you're an artist or a writer or one of the voice talents, everybody is there to tell a story. So there's a strong sense of storytelling there. But it's just an inspiring environment to go somewhere where there's incredible artwork hanging on the walls at any given time, where you can peek your head into a room and listen to, I watched Elton John sit down at the piano and pitch the songs for Lion King the very first day to the directors. So it's, of course, a very inspiring environment, and I think that's stimulating. It's all coming from the same place. Storytelling, image making, all of the arts, literature, it all comes from a need to kind of observe the world around us, interpret it, and then express it on our own terms for others to partake in. And so it kind of like talks about what's universal about the human experience. It provides catharsis or enlightenment, or even it just touches or moves other people.
Right now, we live in the most image-saturated time in human history, in my opinion. I mean, I don't even think you can even compare. Every day we're confronted with imagery, enough where we take imagery completely for granted.
Today, because of TV and video, we live in an age where images from 1930 and 1960 and 1980 and 2006 all live in the same space. And it's greatly expanded our visual horizons.
This art just started. It's very, very undervalued and little understood.
Artwork today is part and parcel of the motion picture making process in connection with larger motion pictures, such as Spider-Man or Titanic. Even the art of Gone with the Wind didn't appear when Gone with the Wind came out as a motion picture. It did come out in the 70s, 80s, and 90s as the appreciation for production art, as art itself became in vogue.
One of the more modern phenomena in the last, again going back to that Star Wars period, is the art of books that are out there now. I mean, there's an art of book for every animated film, and every great visual effects film. Plus there's magazines like Cinefex and all that stuff that really highlight this stuff. So at least that part of it is becoming available to the public.
Movies have always led the way as the sort of defining visual style of industrial design. And then if you think of industrial design as a whole, it defines and creates everything that the general public uses.
Places like the San Diego Comic-Con, which became these idea banks for the studios, for directors looking for material, looking for artists with new ideas, new perspectives, new ways of telling stories. I think that's driven kind of a cultural phenomena. The second most popular art magazine in America is Juxtapose. And Juxtapose, it's outsider art. It's tattoos and carny art and decals and hot rods and stuff that is influenced and born out of animation art.
The studios are a big chain of people, so they are all there, and really they want the artists and the writers, by the way, to be disposable. They are very worried about one individual, especially of the artistic nature, to have any power over a project which costs more than $10, because a person like that is a liability. But the moment I started to produce my own art out of the context of that machinery, I freed myself up from that burden. Oh, why don't they take my art seriously? Why don't I get properly paid? You have to produce your own conceptual world. The internet is a nice place. You can create entire universes in there. You can define whatever you like. It's still a free place.
All fields are going digital, and that's an interesting transition. Hundreds and hundreds of the artists at Disney were laid off because they phased out their traditional animation program in the interest of CG.
A lot of people see the computer as the answer, but it's not like the HAL 9000 computer where it's going to think for you. You think through it. And just like the race car analogy, if it gets you there faster, oftentimes it can, but you go to Comic-Con and you're quickly reminded, wow, that guy could actually paint too, and do a beautiful job of it.
Techniques are tools, of course, nothing else but that. And like everything else, computer or anything, depends on who operates it.
Unless you're willing to take that digital piece of art and do a limited number of reproductions of that piece and number them and sign them in an archival quality printing run, it will never be considered valuable as a piece of artwork. What I'm hoping for is that the entertainment designers are recognized as the art having value beyond the service that it provides for the studios, and have it inspire the next generation to do better work than we did, and hopefully with numbers, they can start to actually own the pieces that they create. Then when they start to have enough strength as a profession, they can start to own the work that they do for the studios as well.
I'm always optimistic for the future. There's going to be some really cool stuff. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but that's kind of the fun part. But what's interesting is it always goes back to those basic things. Can you tell a story? Can you convey your story? How does that work with culture? How does it work with society now? How is it relevant? And it's an interesting thing, and it revolves around all the creative stuff.
Well, I think there's a collective consciousness, not in a Jungian sense, but among the artists. We're all products of our generation. We're all tapped into, again, pop culture and global events, and so there's a collective consciousness that emerges. It's almost inevitable that there will seem to be an agenda ultimately in terms of sense of humor, politics, etc., that emerges from a generation of artists.
It defines and creates everything that the general public uses.
What best facilitates meaning? That's what art is.
Art is what you love. It's painting or sculpture, but this is a genre that isn't recognized by some people. That is changing.